And it was a quick break. Now we're ready for our final series of the day. And the final series of Super Week, guys. Team Liquid Academy, opposite the Rift of TSM Academy. It has been a long week, but I'm happy that we get to close it out together. And let's close out at a strong point, okay, guys?
Yeah.
Let's have some fun with this one.
Yeah, let's get you to cast this series, Kankus.
TriCast? Yeah, let's make production panic in the back room right now and just make these decisions live on air. But with that said, let's actually, before we get into the matchup, we got to recap what's been happening throughout the last week and also the entire split so far with our Samsung SSD Fast 5. Now, these are stats that we track that are key metrics in each position so we can see who is competing at the top from each of these teams. Cubby, I'm going to give this one to you first. You know the drill. What is the most impressive stat to you so far in this split?
Well, Malice isn't first, and I feel like that really doesn't fit his brand when it comes to time to level 6 as the herbivore.
True.
But I'm sure that we'll see.
He's only had like half the games to play, man.
Maybe it's been, some of the Evelyn not clearing fast enough. Maybe we need some more Karthus to speed up that time to 6, but I'd say pretty. That fastest mythic item. What game did that happen? That is 948. That is absurd.
That is actually insane. Do you think, wait, was this an Ivern game? Is this like a troll one where it's like it was a support
because Moonstone is way cheaper than some of the standard Everfrost or Ludens.
Okay, well,
sorry, cut
Pretty.
that one.
Right,
Take Pretty's name off. Sorry, man.
You know what? I think Dark Wings, that might be the Ivern game as well. So we'll give the award to Copy.
All right, there we go. I like that. Rafa, though, what about you? What's your take here?
I'm just now baffled and taking joy in the fact that our mid lane fastest mythic item stats are being inflated by enchanter mid items being completed first.
As a jungler,
at least
Rafa,
we haven't had
this has to be the dream.
I actually was looking at the top lane fastest 100 to CS, and I was surprised it wasn't Dokla. It's considering how dominant he has been, but it goes to show that TSM still trying to hold on to a sliver of anything, any good parts that makes them still a team to be contended with, as they are not at.
Ooh.
In fact, they are on the opposite side of the standings.
That's how we're starting this. Okay, all right. Well, let's just get right into it then, Rafa. TSM struggling, but first we have Team Liquid Academy to cover. I want to start the conversation with them because they are a team that has been impressing us in a couple of different areas. So before we get into the TSM conversation, I'm going to tee this one up. Who wants to talk TL? Because I feel like Rafa's already got his opinions on TSM.
Well, Cubby, he did kind of talk about the bad news TSM news last time, so I can take that front. Cubby, why don't you talk about Team Liquid?
This team, I know that they haven't had the best Super Week they wanted. I'd say the 0-2 against C9 and then splitting games with FlyQuest, a team that is on the up but is still at the bottom of our standings, is not the expectation for Team Liquid Academy. And I think that a lot of it goes to how they're incorporating some of their new members in Bradley and Rhino. I think that Rhino, kind of like Skytech, is still having some growing pains getting into the academy level as a support. A couple times that he gets caught out. Bradley is someone that is having some trouble in lanes, but is actually smurfing team fights. So I think Bradley, if he is able to, something I'm looking for is that he's continuously able to start to lane better. And one of the few bright spots of TSM is Viper in that top lane, who TSM, their early games have been rather abysmal to start off this season, as they are averaging being down 1,000 over 1,000 gold at the 15-minute mark. Viper's actually averaging being up in CS. So it really speaks to, even despite TSM struggles, Viper is still one of the stronger laners that we have in Academy and has been laning rather well. But I know that, Rafa, you're really excited to talk about both of these marksmen going toe-to-toe and two alumni from the 100 Thieves Next org.
That's right. It is the battle of class of 2020, the first class of 100 Thieves Next from Yawn, and then the next year, 2021 100 Thieves Next in Instinct. It is so damn cool that we have basically two alumni of 100 Thieves Next now battling each other on two different completely orgs. And it just goes to show that both Team Liquid and TSM were very, very keen on picking up both of these 80 carries during the offseason of their debuts on 100 Thieves Next.
We need to have like a graphic or some kind of list tracking all the players that have graduated from 100 Thieves Next and future Academy prospects. All right, Cubby's already got us there.
I think that both of these marksmen are actually really strong developmental pieces for both these rosters. And
Yes.
surprisingly enough, for both these players, they've actually found wins on the LCS stage in the lock-in tournament. Of course, TSMA did play in that tournament. We can see Instinct having a big fight as Viper was getting the back door to wrap up this matchup against FlyQuest, and then Yawn as well, pairing up with Core JJ in a couple of those games. I think even in the loss on his Aphelios, performed very admirably. And more of that loss, the blame more sits on Bjergsen's shoulders on the Victor getting caught out a few times than it does Yawn's play. So I think that it's a couple like marksmen that we do have to look out for and be excited about. And it's pretty easy to get excited about both of these players given some of the performances they've been putting up early in the split.
Exactly. And even if the wins aren't coming in for TSM Academy, the thing that we keep highlighting is the fact that there's still bright spots from individual performers, and Instinct, one of those ones that we want to keep our eye on going forward, because we've seen games where he literally was the reason that they stayed in the game or then won them. And similar story for Jan here as we see him having some really cool pop-off moments there. So eyes will be on the bot lane here for this next matchup. But I also want to keep in mind that TSM had picked up some wins earlier on through topside focus too, so we can't forget about Viper. And with that said, Cubby, I'll pass it back to you, but I am hearing that Pick and Ban is ready to go. So I'm going to pass it to the two of you to further that discussion as we get into the last series of the game.
Yeah. As, you know, we kind of frame where TSM and TL are at this early season, we are almost through the first round robin. And keep in mind, we play best of twos in Academy. And so that means it's 18 games, which is similar to an LCS split. Golden Guardians in the spring of last year were our 10th place team. They had 3 wins in the spring. TSM enters this game with 3 wins under their belt, and 2 of them were against Cloud9 Sub Squad, who had 3 subs in for those games, where TSM, to be fair, did stomp C9 in both of those games, thanks to some good play from Hyper and Viper. But besides that, besides the split with Dig, have not been able to pick up any other wins in Academy this split, and have really struggled to transition any early game leads they managed to any wins.
Both of these teams, such strong marksmen. Coming from, I really want to highlight this, when they first made their competitive debut in Amateur, both were on teams and setups where they were not the focus. They were not the primary carries on their respective squads. Jan, when he came in, he was stepping in for... Yeah, he was Ezreal God. And because if you're on 100 Thieves Next to 2020, you weren't playing towards the bottom side of the map because Otto had just role swapped to support. And they're saying, you know what, Otto, we're going to try to get you out of lane. And we're snowballing Kenvi and Tenacity on the top side of the map for... formerly known as Asilian, because that's who he was when he made his competitive debut on Raj Esports. They were playing for Tony Top, Hayami, and Robbie Bob. So both of these marksmen had to step up and put out a significant amount of damage despite not being the sole focus of resources and attention from their teams. But now they've really stepped up in being super strong standout carries in moments where their team desperately needs them. And in Team Liquid's case, they haven't necessarily needed to rely on Jan as so much. Harry and Bradley having great performances more consistently than TSM's side, but Takeover has been stepping up his laning phase. I know, Cubby, you got to catch up with one of the coaches from TSM and saying that Takeover has been actually having standout laning performances. They just haven't really translated that into the mid game for TSM.
Yeah, I spoke with Gunyaso at the start of the week, and he said that, you know, we've been really harping on our first 14 minutes. You know, I've even had help from Peter Zhang, one of the coaches for TSM. They really wanted to focus on that. And in the series that we covered on Wednesday of our Super Week, which was hard to think, it's 26 games earlier, given all the amount of games that we've had so far, they did put together decent first 14-minute plans. They just couldn't transition that into wins. And
right,
something else I do want to credit TSM for, I know that their start to the season for them has been very not good. But something I wanted to see out of this team was them starting to push players into more roles. Specifically Takeover and Yurson. As Yurson, in 90 games last year, only played 8 unique champs, and 80 or 90% of those games were on Rel, Nautilus, Alistar, Leona, all engaged champs. We are seeing Yurson try to play Lulu. Takeover had no competitive games last split on Victor, Orianna, or Twisted Fate. Victor's actually his most played so far this split. So TSM are trying to push these players out of their comfort zone, are trying to help them develop and be more well-rounded academy players. It just hasn't gone that well for them in terms of getting more games in the win column. And we'll see if they can stand up to TL, but I know coming into this game, we are kind of expecting this to be a series where TL bounces back from some of the struggles they have had in the Super Week. Because I know that sitting 1-3 in the Super Week so far doesn't feel great for the side of TL. I know that Spawn and the squad really want to bounce back against TSM here.
Yeah, especially after splitting the series with FlyQuest either yesterday or on Wednesday. I don't remember which specific day. Yesterday, that
they lost both early games.
Yeah.
It was a big bounce back game, too, from Bradley.
Yeah, surprising win from FlyQuest, as they are the other team that TSM have shared the bottom of the standings with, and they lost out on the 0-2 against FlyQuest earlier on Wednesday, as TSM were hoping to break that so that they could at least still contend, but FlyQuest starting to push through, get into the wait, what? This makes no... Where's this going?
Oh, that's where it's going.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We might have had a bug in Champ Select, so we're going to get that sorted out. And yeah, TSM looking to get a ruling there on what just happened. I think the client bugged for takeover. Rafa's like checking his notes, like, wait, Malice isn't on TSM. We already have his in showing.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if like Hypers takes a pivot and says, you know what, the early game's not working out. Screw that. I'm just gonna scale. I'm gonna power farm, right? But we already had a Xin Zhao, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's going bot, but the Jinxes are. So my brain had just completely shut down in that moment.
Yeah. Now, we could have a huge throwback. If anyone in Academy chat remembers this, you are a true diehard League fan. The old discussion of Froggen saying that Karthus beats the Blanc in lane. That's an old throwback controversy back to like Season 3, Season 4. And if anyone in chat remembers that, you can join me in being a boomer. Those were fun times.
What is this, like Season 2? Season 3?
Yeah, no, it was like Season 2 into Season 3, yeah. He thought that Karthus could beat LeBlanc mid lane.
I mean, if you land every Skittle, right, then, you know, you can just destroy her at level 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be better. Stupid. Yeah. Forehead.
In my experience, that was not the greatest matchup in the world, but hey, Froggen believed that he could win it. And yeah, those were the old actual Skittles before, you know, they got updated with the actual, you know, circle where you could
lay
see,
waste.
Yeah, like where, you know, the radius is. Where beforehand, you just kind of had to feel it out with Skittles. They've cleaned up the league quite a bit over time.
I think there's still many casters, whenever they see Karthus, they'll still make a Taste the Rainbow reference in their call. So, which I very enjoy.
I respect, yeah.
Yeah, I love that we have carried that on despite...
And I love Skittles.
Yeah. The Skittles are great, man.
It's sugar is the enemy, but when I get handed some Skittles, I'm all in.
We are waiting for both Team Liquid and TSM to get back into lobby after the collapse of the draft, and just making sure that there's no more technical bugs on either team's end
up until the Karthus.
Yeah,
is what we are assuming. We will wait until we get a ruling. Until then, do you want to hear about the time at camp where I lost what are the odds and had to eat 10 large Skittle packs within 2 hours?
No, you have not told me this story.
That's a true story. That did happen. I was white in the face. It was not good.
Wow.
Yeah.
The more you learn about Mr. Matthew
Talk
Kobe
about
Samuelson.
taste the rainbow.
Yeah.
I tasted a lot of rainbows right there. As you can tell, we are killing and stalling for time. And, you know, it's been quite the week for us over here in our Academy Super Week. All I'm going to say, so most Super Weeks have 15 games. We decided to up that with best twos. We have had 30 games once we conclude these two at the end of our week. And a special shout out to both Mark Z, Pastry Time, and the Tigress for all reviewing all the Academy tape that we have had, hopping in to help us out with our Super Week. And now turning it into an Omega Super Week by hopping into the LCS broadcast this weekend. So I know that their stream just concluded over at twitch.tv/faceit. So big thanks to them for having them in the room. It's been a lot of fun this past week to have them helping out. And that turns out it's not going to be a Karthus. We can return to the draft as it's going to be a Vex to counter this LeBlanc.
Okay. Not as brain melting as the Karthus mid lane that thankfully I'm back at 100% brain capacity, which is not much, to say in the least, but, that's why I still need Cubby to carry me in my ranked games. Yeah. Hey, man, if anyone's going to make fun of me, it's going to be myself, okay? I'm in control of my own fate. Braum and Lulu being taken off the table, so no unbreakable shields from Rhino, no whimsies either. This does cut down onto the support pool as Thresh has already been taken off the table. This leaves for your Son a prime plethora of engaged supports. The Leona, the Nautilus, even the Alistar we just saw CLG Breezy pull out. A beautiful example of.
Hey, if we saw a blind Alistar, I'd be surprised, but you never know. As instead, two top laners taken away on the side of Team Liquid. Both actually counters to the Gangplank. So we could see a Gangplank coming out for Bradley. Would make sense into the Jinx plus Vex, and it's something that Bradley, as he has started to show more and more top laners in his pool, it's been really fun to see Bradley start to bust out some of these top laners and play really well. Specifically, the Gangplank, which I do want to highlight, and I have said that Bradley, while he has had some struggles in lane, and he is going through that role swap from mid to top, there have been a few times where Bradley gets caught out at times that you don't want to get caught out as a top laner. But Bradley has been playing team fights very, very well. In fact, his DPM at 608 is the 4th highest in our league, which I know that's not like a great stat to net, exactly like where everyone's at. But what it does tell me is that Bradley is playing damage carries and is playing them rather well in the team fights. So sitting 4th overall and the top of all of our top laners will not be the Graves, or the Gangplank, I should say, but it will be the Graves. So that will be the pick for Bradley on the top side. And then a set for Rhino. I like seeing this.
I believe now this is his second performance on the set for the Academy split. For anyone that knows Rhino when he was playing on Zeus Gaming last year, it shouldn't be a strange appearance here. Rhino had some great games on the set during his time. Viper. And now Viper looking at the Aurelia.
Do it, man.
This would be a spicy pick. You've got to do something. All right. The gauntlet has been thrown down, Cubby.
I like this, yeah. So Viper on this Aurelia, you can destroy the Graves in lane. And that is the goal. And it does somewhat fit the identity of TSM, which is going in. And to be fair, I mean, this Aurelia, I actually think is very good into what Team Liquid is showing on their side, as you can beat the Graves in lane, you also beat LeBlanc in the side, and it helps out with this dive identity that TSM has, which is the dog pile with Vex, get that first reset, run the fight from there, whereas Team Liquid also looking for resets, but they have a lot of mobility on their side, so we're going to have to see if Rhino can land that big counter engage that he is keen to do on the set, and if they can get a reset for Armeo, try and dodge out on what we expect to be a big engage coming in from TSM, as at least in that top side. I have to keep our eyes up there, as Viper has been the big win condition, especially early for TSM, and he has a counter pick where he can destroy that lane.
And I want to set the expectations for both of these compositions and how they should play out, because when you look at the battle lines for Team Liquid, they're not so cut and dry, right? You have this backline in Aphelios and Bradley to an extent, but he's slightly shorter range than Aphelios, so he'll have to play a little farther up to be able to deal damage. But the rest of TSM, they are dogpiling, right? You already said. And there's not really a lot of strong peeling tools from the side of Team Liquid to deal with that. At most, you have Rhino being able to use Showstopper on one of them away from the rest of the backline, and then maybe using Facebreaker to stun them up as they all collapse in. But after that, it's pretty much Yawn and Bradley having to fend for themselves, while Armeo and Harry look to find counter resets against the reset comp that TSM have built.
It's something where, on the side of Team Liquid too, that Graves pick for Bradley, I'm not a huge fan of the blue side Graves. I'd much rather prefer something like a Gragas blind, but I do like when Graves is into a lot of melees and people that have to jump onto you, because as you mentioned, he doesn't have a ton of range, and Bradley has a chance to do a lot of work if he is able to survive this lane phase and pick up some resources elsewhere.
As we're heading on to the Rift, TSM, no cheeky level 1 shenanigans to gain priority and vision control for Viper in the top side of the map, as something we have seen teams tend to do whenever they have a spicy counter pick or a volatile lane matchup, like this Aurelia and the Graves. They'll 5-man and try to get vision control of the bushes, so now that the opposing top laner has the fear for something, but that won't be the case. It's more of a standard 5-man fan. And so far for TSM, I'm looking at this composition, as we already talked about before. Really, the only thing that is kind of a difference is this Aurelia. Not necessarily in terms of identity for Viper, but I think this is our first Aurelia so far in Academy. Am I correct on that?
I think we've seen this champ before, as I know Dokla and Palafox both have played it. But in terms of Viper's champion pool,
at least for Viper.
Yeah, it's the first Aurelia that we're seeing out of Viper, but something that we know that him and his family can play rather well, as it is going to be a late invade from Team Liquid, and Hyper has to head for the hills, taking advantage of the range and power of Graves level 1.
That sucks for Hyper. Because now, I'm like trying to find a polite way of saying that, but like, man, Xin Zhao, without red buff, and being able to immediately path towards the top side, he cannot assist Viper in securing this advantage into the Graves and protecting it from a gank like Armeo or Harry coming and roaming towards the top side.
And I really do value the split map now from Armeo, because, as you mentioned, how can you help assist this lane with the Aurelia? And Armeo is going for the triple quadrant, as he left a small Raptor behind for Hyper, and already into the game. Hyper's early game has just been ruined by the side of Team Liquid and Armeo.
Crossing the map over, denying red buff. It's such a powerful tool for Xin Zhao to skirmish early with. Team Liquid already trying to push for priority through the mid lane with Harry onto takeover, so that Harry can always be the first one to collapse in case Hyper feels forced to make something happen early now that he's down camps.
And something that we haven't highlighted yet that we really should is Harry's the Blanc. It was his most played in summer. It is his most played even with the late appearance into Academy, as he was making his way from Australia again. And it's 3-0. And he has just been kingdoming people mid with Armeo, as nice sidestep from Bradley to dodge out on that stun. And Viper's already in a tough lane state, but Armeo has been spotted walking mid. This is actually a good setup for TSM, as the wave's bouncing back. Armeo has to navigate away from this, as he did spot Yurison. Now making his way to the top side, where Hyper is going to net both crabs, which is a nice bounce back for him, but Armeo is still feasting in the jungle, as he's going to still take his bot side here, or top side, I should say, and I guess could still shift into the bot side to try and get that crab if he wants to pick that up, as neither team has looked at it yet.
Yeah, a little bit of relief from TSM. Instinct and Yurson didn't have any problems pushing that first wave in their reset against Yon and Rhino. No summoners needed to be burned, and Yurson, instead of recalling, just took that time to say, hey, I'm free. I got some time. Hyper, you want to get back into the game? I got you, bro. I'll roam mid. I'll make sure I have prio with takeover. And then just like that, even though Hyper didn't get to have red buff for the first few minutes of the game, he's not disastrously far behind anymore.
Rhino, it's always nice to tank some damage. You get the Haymaker, get the set passive. It's not a bad situation. Him, Harry, making sure this wave gets in. That will be a reset for him. And Armeo is able to pick up that bot crab. So jungle advantage for me. Still goes over to the side of Armeo. He's pretty far ahead of the curve. And oh boy, Rhino, split recall. Will at least get stopped and could potentially give Yurson the opportunity to move and impact the mid lane, as he does have quite a bit of tempo on the supported Team Liquid Academy.
Yeah, Rhino sub 50% HP. Hyper's going to jump right on top, and Armeo just says, I mean, I can't really do anything. Sorry about that. And that's first blood to TSM despite the early game.
Greedy bases coming out from Rhino, as it was on a ward, not synced up with his marksman, and then doesn't step under the tower. And that does give TSM an angle, but Harry looking against takeover here.
Oh, jumps in with the distortion despite the Shadow Surge coming through. Takeover. Really, like, going to almost full limits between both of these mid laners, as Harry is the one successfully that gets to push out takeover.
Yeah, if that chain connects, I think takeover dies, because Harry can match the flash. So, really important that takeover is able to live. As I know that when Vex first came out, she was a big counter to LeBlanc, but as time's gone on, I know Vex's numbers got changed around just a little bit, and I think most of the blocks actually figured out how to pilot this matchup. So it feels pretty even, and I still favor the LeBlanc because she gets early prio, and is also more elusive in the later stages of the game. What we really have to look out for, though, is once Takeover finishes that first item, Vex hits like a truck, and if you are able to utilize that mid-game spike and get the Vex rolling, TSM can try and get rolling and take down Team Liquid.
Uh-oh, Takeover still has Flash, but he's got to dodge out on a lot of crowd control abilities. Personal space gives him the AoE fear, but it doesn't give him the ability to survive. Harry claims the kill.
Talked about Harry's LeBlanc and Team Liquid being able to mid-lane kingdom around it. Exhibit A, right there. Has level 6, Takeover does not. Rhino and Armeo are there to support. Takeover has no chance of getting away from that play. And a beautiful setup from Team Liquid makes that kill score even.
We're back to clearing out our jungle camp. Says life moves on, right? 2 kills back to back. Nothing has really been set in stone for the overall tone of the game. TSM still have win conditions in this Aurelia for Viper to just really snowball out of control onto Bradley. Hasn't come to fruition quite yet. Both have just hit level 6. Maybe things will change around depending on where the junglers show themselves, as a lot of this is dependent on Viper knowing where Armeo is and where Hyper is.
Hyper did pick up that red buff and will now reset, which he's trying to secure his blue. This is something that Team Liquid could try to contest, as he does take the bot crab. And Harry, now with that kill and Flash being down on Takeover, has a lot of priority in the mid lane. So any move that Team Liquid wants to make, we expect Harry to be there at the party. And it's going to be difficult for Takeover to respond.
First dragon no one has claimed quite yet. TSM and Team Liquid have both of their junglers on the bottom side of the map, so I don't know if necessarily they'll scrap out for it or if they'll wait for teams to show themselves on the other side of the map and try to look for an objective trade. It is a mountain dragon, so just a little extra bonus resistances would be nice to have, but not necessarily things worth fighting for if you're Team Liquid. They will secede it over to TSM.
Looks to be setting up for the first Rift Herald instead, as we'll see if Team Liquid can make a move. Something I think we should note is, I guess, a theory that we had as we are on 12.3, the newest patch. We saw some changes to some items, specifically Blade of the Ruin King, getting a little bit more % damage on the melee auto attacks, and also Death's Dance changing up to now absorb magic damage as well as physical. I think that really helps out Aurelia. And we can see Viper already sprinting towards that Blade of the Ruin King, so really focusing on that side lane power for TSM, and makes me even more interested to see if TSM are looking to attack this top side, which at the moment they are setting up for, as both Instinct and Yerson are rotating around to this Rift Herald.
Hilariously enough, our colleague Joshi commonly refers to Aurelia's big first power spike as Vamp Scepter. As soon as Aurelia hits that, game's over, as he jokingly refers to.
Well, you know, he is a Gnar player, so that does add up.
That's when the game is over for him.
If Aurelia is selected and you have Gnar and you're playing in solo queue, usually those games are over.
You need a lot of jungle attention and maybe even more friends. TSM starting up the Rift Herald first. Team Liquid saying, hey, why don't they just leash the Rift Herald for us and then we'll collapse as it gets closer down to being taken. Yerson popping the W for extra damage reduction, but now it is gone. Rhino looking for the Hex Flash. It just forces TSM away, and Rift Herald will momentarily reset. Bradley would like to pick up this wave once again.
That's big for Team Liquid, because you mentioned the waves at the end. Team Liquid, they have the fast track to both mid and top lanes, so they can get a shove on both waves, try and prod the Rift Herald again. And while all this is happening, Dawn's alone on the bot side with this press the attack Aphelios. We talked about stepping up those very aggressive trading patterns to try and take advantage of the burst of PTA. He has solo kill potential in the bot side against Instinct, but TSM are looking to break this. Bradley's hovering here. This is dangerous. Nice sidestep.
Vanguard's Ed completely whiffed. Bradley Will he still go down? He flashes
Bradley.
the flawless duet stun, and now Team Liquid are ready to punish. Yurson is finally here, but it might just be too late. Hyper goes down without a hitch. Harry is also collapsing in with the flash, and oh my God, Cubby, I can't shy away from it. That was awful.
What? I mean, I'm going to focus on Bradley's output. That was pretty good as the sidestep.
Okay. No. That was slick. I'm sorry.
All right, yeah. That was pretty slick from Bradley. But, yeah, Viper just wasn't able to recast that stun to get onto Bradley, so he's able to sneak out, and everything collapses for TSM. As the back half of the play, that did look pretty tough for the side of TSM. Takeover, not able to rotate, given the mid-prow for Harry, and Harry's the Blanc. 2-0-0. We've seen what this pick can do before in Academy, and he continues to be off to the races. As we're going to take a quick sec to make sure that we can get Team Liquid getting back out onto the map, getting everything reset here for the side of TSM. And yeah, for the side of TSM, now down 1.5k gold. We did highlight going into this game. Team Liquid, their early games have been okay, but TSM's early games have been the weakest in Academy. I believe the only one weaker is C9, who played with 3 subs for the majority of the season so far. And so TSM, unfortunately, on track. And this Aurelia pick on the top side, Rafa, just has not panned out. And because of the split map scenario early, it's been really difficult for TSM to play towards it. And the second play they made towards it was broken by Team Liquid.
Well played to Bradley for being able to dodge out in that 1v2 situation. Huge stuff for the new top laner of Team Liquid. Role swapping from mid, by the way, after a very successful and standout performance on Wildcard Gaming. Probably our best amateur team during the summer split of last year. Infernal Dragon coming up in 35 seconds here. Team Liquid now have all the control they need. No teleports available from TSM's top laner as well. Rift Herald going to crash. This turret will fall. And the rest of Team Liquid are ready to just continue setting up more dominoes for this snowball.
There's no answer for TSM. Viper still no TP. No empowered TPs available for either of these teams. You can see Viper actually taking the Krugs right now on the minimap. Viper is trying to hover the bot side to prevent that turret from being taken. TSM will keep it alive for a bit longer, but here goes Rhino.
Nice. Flash from Rhino, forcing the summoner spells from Instinct. Cleanse and Flash now gone. TSM's bot lane will survive, but the summoner spells had to be used in order to survive that encounter. This turret can't say the same about it surviving. Hyper is closing in through the river, but just as I say that, remember, your son is half HP, and the rest of Team Liquid, they're ready to press onto this. Instinct has to keep his distance. No summoners available, but nice super mega death rocket. TSM able to bounce back before Hyper goes down to Yawn. Rest of Team Liquid now routing off Yurson, and Instinct and Takeover cannot participate in the fight.
And Yawn's Aphelios, already having the Gale Force important, but also his control over the guns that he has. Red, white. So difficult to go in and fight against that. TSM trying to contest. Gets bit back. Now Viper on the flip side. He saw everyone bot. He's going for the solo kill.
Flawless duet. Viper wants to return the favor. Last time Bradley dodged it out. This time Viper locks it down.
Good play by Viper. Once again, Team Liquid showing everyone bot. Gives him the window to be aggressive. This is what you can do in that 1v1. Viper's able to connect with that solo kill. He's going to have to be the one that brings TSM out of the brink of disaster. Is walking through this choke, I like the aggressiveness from TSM, but there's no way for Instinct to get in this fight. So it is essentially a 2v3 with Harry still having first move from mid. If you want to go for that play, you have to buy some space for Instinct to try and be able to get in. And he was even fighting at an item disadvantage. So I think TSM is not picking the right times, the right moments to try and find the comeback against Team Liquid. And every time they slip up, Harry and the rest of Team Liquid is there to capitalize. As now this LeBlanc, Ludens is completed, and Harry's 3-0.
Your son wants to put an end to that streak right now, as he has Hex Flash successfully into the bush without being spotted. Trying to capitalize on Harry, who has just distortion forward into Takeover. The Fear connects. Maybe, though, the Zenith Blade didn't connect, but the Solar Flare guarantees that Harry has nowhere else to run. The shutdown will go over to Takeover.
Good trade for TSM. They do sack the Dragon for it, but I think they'll take the mid lane kill. Trying to crawl their way back into this game. Now Hyper, he's pretty far up.
No flash from last skirmish either on the bottom side of the map. Crescent Guard used to disengage momentarily, but Yon with the Gale Force forward is able to close the distance. Hyper goes down. Armeo picks up his soul, and they rotate their control to the top side of the map.
I can understand wanting to try and push into the jungle when the enemy mid laner is down, but TSM just, they're still on the back foot. They still don't have the strength and takeover. That ultimate was down for him, so Hyper just not picking the right moments. I know that Hyper's had a tough start to this Academy split, and 1-3-1 being punished by Armeo is now Instinct.
Oh my goodness!
Oh boy.
What a combo!
OTP.
Moonlight Vigil
Viper.
on the purple gun locks him down, and the rest of Team Liquid get out without hits.
Okay.
But just as I say that, Viper says, no, 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 you're not getting away from me. That's a shutdown for Viper.
An efficient use of TP. As he TPs, burns that, and the flash says, I'll take that 600 gold for myself. I'm going to sprint straight back up top lane and try and continue to put this to good use. And Viper is going to be the saving grace of TSM in this game if they have a chance.
Oh, good
You can
God.
tell Viper knows that he has to be that big carry. This was the counter pick that he selected. It's good into both of the solo lanes for Team Liquid. And it could give TSM a leg to stand on as we transition into the mid game, because the bright spot for TSM is that Viper has gotten fed with his counter pick. It does win side lanes into both Graves and LeBlanc. And if Viper's able to create space on the map, that's what TSM can utilize to try and get themselves back in this game.
Ever since the 1v2 debacle, Viper has made it his sole mission to erase any doubts that he can single-handedly carry this game on this Aurelia. He will be a man on a mission here in the 1v9 performance if he has to die trying. But right now, you can see in just in the brief instances where we see him on screen, the way he controls the laning state, Bradley forced to use the collateral damage just to escape, because Viper still had Vanguard to close the distance. Team Liquid now playing with their advantage on the top side of the map. Rift Herald can be taken here in this moment.
It's good to see Viper putting up some good performances. I know that last year, I mean, it's hard to believe that Viper won Proving Grounds with no org, and then top forward with Immortals. Very, very impressive year from Viper. I know that TSM has had a lot of struggles in this early season, but good to see Viper showing some more signs of strength. We did mention that he's averaging being up in most lanes. Still a very powerful solo player. Just TSM as a team, big story for them is that they haven't been able to come together. They've been able to pick the right spots, and that's what's led to a lot of their struggles. But it's good to see them fighting back a little bit in the mid game. I did say that we feel like a lot of TSM struggles just not getting early leads, and then when they do, not being good at transitioning them. Seeing them fight back in the mid game is something that we haven't really seen from TSM this year, and at least they are showing some signs of strength, some signs of life, but they need to see if they can find a team fight soon as they are grouped up to try and contest the second Herald.
3.7 KHP on the Rift Herald. Oh, but Hyper
right,
just
Hyper.
yoinks it away. He still has flash if he needs to disengage, but he's not worried about it at all because the chain doesn't stay in range to lock him down. And TSM have the inside track. They push him away with the wind becomes lightning. Bradley is on the flank, though. Watch for how he uses the smoke screen onto Instinct. Looking for the slow, immediately forcing him to flash. Bradley will be able to escape over the wall. The solar flare doesn't stun him down. Viper looking for it, but he gets bursted before he gets a chance to turn it around. And now Team Liquid, despite losing on the Rift Herald, are going to make TSM pay for it.
And Bradley's maneuverability in that team fight, Rafa, to bait Viper in and then take two members at TSM down. Bradley, he was our top prospect for all of last year, or all the summer of last year as a mid laner. And watching him transition to the top lane, Graves, something that he had some games on before, and he's showing some reasons why we're excited about Bradley here, as Viper just got baited in, and then the rest of Team Liquid just able to turn it around. TSM trying to push to get that mid outer, just overextending a bit too much, and Team Liquid punish.
One of the cool things about how Team Liquid fought that fight goes back to what we were talking about, how battle lines will be established in this game between these two compositions. For TSM, very one-track minded, right? You are diving forward with the Leona, the Xin Zhao, the Vex, everyone's trying to dogpile. But with Team Liquid, you get to pick and choose separate battles, and it's I was curious to see if Bradley is going to take the backline approach where he's just trying to peel with Yon and go from the back. No, he is playing like a freaking assassin. He sees Instinct, and even though he doesn't get the assassination, the threat is still there when he walks forward, pops the smoke screen, and Instinct automatically knows, oh, if I don't flash right now, I'm going to get 100-0 by this grave. So he has to flash away. And that great spacing creates so much opportunity for Team Liquid to aptly deal with Aurelia in that fight.
And as we return to the map state, the fact that Viper is taken down, had some time in the gray screen, not able to accumulate more resources on the Aurelia. We're now seeing that TSM having some more struggles getting out onto the map as a squad. And if Viper's side lane doesn't work out and isn't going to be a win con for TSM, the other one, we have to return to that matchup we were talking so much about at the start of this game. Instinct versus Yon on this Jinx. There are opportunities for Instinct to outrange. There isn't a ton of peel, but we have seen Instinct not get slowed down by things like that before. The strongest part about this player is how Instinct plays these team fights. And that could be the other saving grace for TSM in this one if they want to try and fight back against Team Liquid.
Is Harry looking for an assassination? Can he actually 100-0 Viper right now?
He's at 2 items. He has the Cosmic Drive finish. Now,
oh, he waits out for the damage reduction from W, but
I think he's waiting for a face check, and he might get a little bit scared because no one else at TSM was showing. It was a full reset from them. So I think Harry intelligently calling that one off, and we'll continue to side lane on this LeBlanc, 3-1-1. Still very powerful at this point of the game, especially with that Cosmic Drive completed. TSM, they are spotted. They did try and set up on this top side, as we do have Baron on the map. It seems like Team Liquid keen to just wait out till these dragon fights.
Dragon will be available for the next 3.5 minutes. Baron has spawned, but neither team seems that keen to burst it down or pull the other team towards it by starting it up. Yurson is on a ward, so neither of the members of Team Liquid in the jungle are in danger. They are just gaining control and allowing Harry to continue safely pushing and creating pressure on the bottom side of the map.
I think Viper being grouped right now is a little bit awkward, and we're seeing TL start to fish.
They're getting a lot of single target lockdown onto Yurson, but he's a tanky fella, so he's not going down that easily. Didn't have to burn any summoner spells. It was a solar foe that came out, so that's one engage tool gone from TSM.
Still is pretty textbook play from Team Liquid, as they just get Prio in the side lane with Harry, then he rotates around, get a numbers advantage, and you can see how Team Liquid are able to utilize that to not only chunk out TSM, but take that mid-outer turret for themselves.
Team Liquid will take this time to reset their control, as Viper is now the one picking up the minion wave on the bottom side of the map. Going to give an opportunity for TSM to make a play off of that tempo that they'll be establishing while Team Liquid are getting their bases in. The rest of TSM, they are not necessarily afraid of letting the game go on a little long. They still have strong scaling pieces, and if we can take anything, for example, Golden Guardians, they still have the Jinx. Now, Harry might be in a bad spot. One distortion use.
Flash.
Doesn't have Mimic distortion, though, so he can only flash one. That's the Summoner Spell trade.
3 showing for TSM, but I think Viper, he's just waiting for other people from Team Liquid to show. And might be waiting to potentially get Bradley, as he could get a couple resets, stack up that passive. He's thinking about it.
Flawless Duet does not land. Bradley able to dash away from Danger. You know, one thing to note that Viper, very apt Aurelia. Oh, hold up. Oh, Rhino's cutting off the escape route, and now, oh no, Yurson has nowhere to go. He flashes away, he throws out the solar flare, he's like, guys, please help.
He's got the crab.
Someone
But
help
Rhino's
me.
speeding. He's got that dead man's plate.
I mean, movement speed is not going to get you out from getting collapsed by all 5 members from Team Liquid Academy. He's staying alive. He's got the damage reduction, and they're saying, you know what? We're so comfortable. We'll just let Yon pick this one up. Slowly, Team Liquid Academy now have the numbers advantage once again, taking out the main engage tool from TSM.
A pretty alpha flash from Rhino. Just straight up going over the wall and saying, you can't walk through me. I'm set, man. Cuts off the side of TSM. Yon, perfect guns to do the Baron. Will rip through it with the Calibrum, and that's easy. Baron going over to Team Liquid. It is traded out for the mid-outer, but TSM continue to fall behind.
Blue team's turret
They don't have a chance to really trade for a dragon since it's not up for another 30 seconds. I have to say, I hope our socials guy is watching the game and clipping that that flash, because that is like, on paper, when you first look at it, it's like, that's a strange flash, and then you realize the implications of it afterwards, and you're just like...
Giga brain.
Yeah. Giga Chad status right there.
That's what we expect out of Rhino's set, as he does have that Dead Man's Plate, which means that Set, as we like to call it, has the Strode equipped. It is all the flair, as I will say, Set running around with the Dead Man's Plate active, like that animation, it just makes him look so much cooler.
Dude, he's zooming. He is very fast. And Team Liquid, now with the numbers advantage on the bottom side of the map, this is sole point. TSM, they're... I know we said before that they're not necessarily in danger of getting outscaled the later the game goes. That changes if the other team has Ocean Soul.
So the scaling for them, it's different because a lot of their scaling comes from the side lane for Aurelia, but it's really tough to execute the perfect team fight on Aurelia. And so we'll see if Viper's able to do it. And as Team Liquid take more and more structures, it's harder and harder for Aurelia to get out on the map and be that nuisance in the side lane that we know she can be.
Bradley, meanwhile, making great use of the Baron. He has 3 items on this Graves. Lord Dominic's Regards completed. No grievous wounds, so he can't cut down on Viper. Oh, okay, Takeover finds the flight, and Viper immediately flashes forward to secure the kill, but just as I say that, Bradley still doesn't go down. The True Grit keeping himself alive. He's got it stacked up, and he is living, baby. Bradley will not be able to join the remainder of his team because he doesn't have teleport anymore, but Team Liquid got all that they wanted in that mid inhibitor.
And now, that's awkward.
Okay, we're fine.
Now Viper may not be fine.
Yeah, Bradley and Armeo, they had the 2v1 advantage. Viper saying, okay, I gotta farm up this wave as fast as possible.
I gotta TP out. That's what Viper's saying to himself right now, as I think he's just going deeper and deeper. Might actually be playing the 5-head play. He's going for the wave. Viper kind of knows that he's in trouble.
No, he's not getting out. I thought there was maybe a chance that he could find a safe place to teleport to. He throws out all of his damage, but TSM do make great use of it. They get objective bounty in the mid lane turret. There's no Baron to pick up as it was already secured by Team Liquid, but TSM now have the inside track.
It's not all lost. For the Yakety Sax, at least turned into an objective bounty, and we got to hear the cool sound effect again.
Whee! I do like the objective bounty.
That's the dopamine hit that I need, not the collections. I need the objective bounty hit. It's like how I play TFT, where I try and lose as hard as possible to maximize the win streak, and I take the fast 8 comp. That's like objective bounties.
Wow, you're actually just a mercenary abuser then.
No, it's Yordles. I am by saying that. I also realize that I'm fully advocating for Janna top, which I'm not so sure about anymore. So maybe I backed myself into a corner here.
It's okay, Cubby. I'll bail you out. I'll say something even more foolish, and then you can just laugh at me.
I mean, the free bailout that you could have taken is that TSM are kind of backed into a corner by Team Liquid, but I'll take you making yourself look foolish any day too.
Like I said, I'm willing to make myself look wrong for content and to make you look better. That's how you make your co-caster look good in comparison.
That's true teamwork. I appreciate that, Rafa. As Team Liquid is now regrouped, Team TSM trying to defend their structures, and there is no more Baron for Harry and the rest of Team Liquid, but you see level 16 is now in for LeBlanc, and that is when LeBlanc turns into LeBlanc.
I think Joshi also has another saying for LeBlanc. I don't remember it. He just made up a word one time and said yeah, when LeBlanc gets to this point, she just deletes people, and we're already seeing the remnants of it. And Harry, damage check. No. Okay, Harry's like,
Harry knows. He's like, oh god,
I missed my chain. My bad. I won't mess with you again, Viper.
You can see that Viper is still a threat in this game, but something that can neutralize that threat would be the Ocean Soul, which is now spawning in 1 minute and 10 seconds. It will be synced with the Baron. TSM, I'm curious to see how they approach this with Team Liquid, as of course Team Liquid could try and trade Baron for the Ocean Dragon going over to TSM, but it seems like Team Liquid, Ocean Soul kind of fits the vibe, So I think they want to play for that. No other reason. That is my evidence.
I mean, Team Liquid have
What is the
historically
court
been
thing?
on Team Ocean for Scouting Grounds events, so they're just fitting
On
right
brand.
into their pocket. Yeah, very on brand.
Well, Team Liquid, this should be the Ocean Soul. At this point, where the map's at, it's so difficult for TSM to walk up, and you can see all the control the Team Liquid has, even over the top side. TSM are more worried about the Baron sneak than they are about the Ocean Soul going over to the side of Team Liquid. See Hyper poking and prodding his way in, trying to see if they can get into this top side jungle, but they can't even get the Raptor camp.
Yeah, Bradley has taken that one for himself. A lot of the jungle camps Bradley has been picking up, making sure that he can be
here we go.
accelerated. Solar Flare does not necessarily connect. Zenith's Blade did take him all the way into the back line, and now he's in deep trouble. TSM cannot save their support. Vanguard's Edge is used as a deterrent. He goes right back in onto Harry. Chunked him down, sub 50% HP. Vex finds the Shadow Surge, finds Bradley, takes him out. Can they turn this one around? TSM looking for the resets, takeover, almost takes down Harry. A flash forward, nets the kill, but Yawn and Armeo are still alive to keep this one in Team Liquid's favor. Instinct has to be the hero. He has to turn this one around, but can't dodge out on the Heartbreaker from Armeo, and that's the ace for Team Liquid and the game.
Valiant effort from TSM, and it seems like Team Liquid are with you, Rafa. They're ignoring the objectives, just going for the base. As Team Liquid, I know that the 1 and 3 start the Super Week. It's the start that they wanted, but this is the start of their bounce back to wrap up the 30 games we've had going throughout this week. Looks like they're going to be taking Game 1 against TSM. See if your son has anything to say about it.
Armeo and Yawn just
It is 8
pretending that
seconds on
your
the
son
Viper.
are not there.
Yeah.
Solar Flare and all the crowd control
on,
is
they
actually
can't
a lot.
end.
And you know what? Your son does do
There's
enough
TPs.
to save
TPs
the
are
next
coming in.
turn. Oh, TP coming in from Viper. You called it.
Oh.
He's looking for squishy members. Yawn, no flash, no cleanse. If he can round him down, but your son had already used Solar Flare to lock him down. Another TP, take over, but it's going to be matched by Bradley, or... Yeah, Bradley and Harry.
Bradley's taking the dragon.
Bradley's
They're gonna
taking the
fight.
dragon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
Yawn's dead.
TSM will have the
That's
numbers
one.
advantage. They find Yawn, Super Dragon,
Viper.
Death Rocket sailing on in. It does not connect, but they still get the kills onto 2 members, but Ocean Soul being secured. TSM need to go for the Hail Mary. They have to
Start
fight this Baron.
Just do Baron. Yeah, please just jump on the Baron. It's going to be really tough for them as the Vex ult does not connect for takeover. This is the only option that TSM has. And Rhino is actually zoning Instinct off from getting into the pit. If you can look at the top of the screen, Rhino has found the Jinx.
And he's fighting him to the death right now. Instinct doing his best. And Bradley gets to round him off as well.
Oh,
That's
no.
the marksman gone. And TSM can't even do the
Here
Baron.
comes the
Their
set.
options are limited. Rhino, I've seen this before where Rhino just begins to round off multiple members. And now Bradley, despite losing out on Yawn, they've got a backup marksman. And his name is Bradley, baby. He's got a shotgun. He's looking for this Quadra. Takes out Viper. Oh my God, Team Liquid, can they end the game now?
It's a good read from Rhino, who, those spawn timers just being desynced. The camp, you're on the set, and hey, he's got a dead man's plate. Set has all the mobility in the world. Instinct doesn't have sums, right? I really like the read from Rhino. And on try number 2, I think Team Liquid are going to secure this Game 1 for themselves. Or can they? They don't have a wave. We're still here.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
TSM
you know
stay
what?
alive.
Yeah, TSM are definitely putting in their work and making Team Liquid try very hard. Oh no! Leave
Nice
him
catch.
alone, please.
Good catch. That's teamwork right there, baby. Hyper's got his back.
Making sure that Instinct stays alive. He is, as we have pointed out during the pre-show, he is one of the cruxes, and when a very tanky set finds you before you get a chance to get on top of the Baron, and then that allows Bradley just to completely cut them all off.
I like how Rhino as well buffering the chompers with the RKO. Make sure to get Instinct to the right place, which is in the waiting arms of Bradley. That shotgun, all Bradley needs to make sure that things go in Team Liquid's favor. Quadra kill for Bradley is... This game has been extended a little bit longer. Long enough for Bradley to pick up an Infinity Edge, plus a stopwatch. So, this Graves got really fed. And we're going to have to see what Bradley can do with it, as he's now sitting at 8, 2, and 3. Really nice performance for one of the new top laners that we have in Academy. And Team Liquid, this should be the death push. 3 is a charm. We've messed up twice. Comedy comes and rules the threes, and I'm going to hope that 3 is the magic number for Team Liquid here.
Or will it be the
Or
magic
is it?
rule for TSM? Well, this Nexus turret should go down. Oh, Takeover finds his mark onto Harry. Pops the Zhonya's Hourglass.
Rhino?
But he does not get out. Rhino is doing great work into the back lines. Absorbs so much damage with the Haymaker shield. He's able to speed on out. And the Ocean Soul doing work and keeping himself sustained on up. TSM, a valiant attempt to defend the base twice. The third time it's going to go over to Team Liquid as they take the first game of the series.
And I still really want to credit Armeo. Like, going back to that level 1, the split map against the Aurelia was clutch. And because that just takes away any room for Hyper to make plays on the map, because they have mid prio. Yeah, the top lane they're going to lose, but Armeo just 3 quadrants him. Hyper really had no good response. They tried to respond elsewhere, but it was negated by the side of Team Liquid. And then that plus the setup they had on Harry mid, and that him to kill when he had that level 6 advantage. Big plays coming out from Team Liquid. They got off to a good start. TSM tried to fight back. It just was not enough as Team Liquid bounced back after that 1-3 super week. Now moving to 2-3 and have a chance to go 500 and emerge from the soup if they are able to take this game too.
Once again, flashes of brilliance from members like Viper on the Aurelia, as well as Instinct on the Jinx. Even Takeover stepping up and finding some clutch plays on the Vex.
Next fight was close. One mid lane.
They are still, unfortunately, dashed away as Team Liquid still reign dominant and are looking so damn good as one of our suspected top squads as they are trying to push outside of the soup you aforementioned. But for Team Liquid, they are 1-0 in the series right now. So for us, we're going to be taking a quick break. When we come back, Kangas will join us again, and we'll see what his perspective is on the series so far.